Hey guys, tonight we slip into a candlelit hall where a noble's silken laugh conceals a blood-chilling plot, the air thick with the scent of burning incense and the faint echo of footsteps on cold stone. You find yourself standing at the edge of a vast, shadowy empire, where the Qin dynasty's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, looms like a ghostly figure, his legacy carved into the earth itself. You'd last 5 minutes in this den of secrets before tripping over a dagger. Trust me, the intrigue here is thicker than the fog rolling off the Yellow River. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Whisper in the comments where you're drifting off from and the hour on your clock. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's drift into tonight's shadowy tale together. You step into the stillness of ancient China, where the year is 221 BCE, and the air hums with the ambition of a man who united a fractured land. The Qin tombs stretch before you, a sprawling necropolis hidden beneath Mount Li, its terracotta warriors standing guard like silent sentinels. The ground beneath your feet feels heavy, as if it holds the weight of 1,000 untold stories, and the faint rustle of wind carries whispers of something darker. This is no ordinary burial site. It's a monument to power, opulence, and a secret that has puzzled historians for centuries. You imagine the emperor's voice, commanding his craftsmen to build a mausoleum so grand it would rival the heavens. Yet beneath that glory lies a tale of sacrifice that sends a shiver down your spine. As you glide through the imagined corridors of this underground palace, the walls gleam with polished bronze and jade, a testament to Qin Shi Huang's obsession with immortality. Historians note that he commissioned the Terracotta Army, over 8,000 life-sized soldiers, to protect him in the afterlife, a mainstream fact that showcases his unparalleled wealth and control. But there's more to this story than clay warriors. You catch a whiff of something acrid, like charred wood, and wonder what else was buried with him. A quirky tidbit emerges. The emperor's engineers reportedly included a mercury river in the tomb, believing it would mimic the waterways of China and grant eternal life. Odd, right? It's almost like he was trying to bottle the stars. Yet, the real enigma begins when you hear faint echoes of a ritual long past. Legends speak of concubines and workers sacrificed to accompany the emperor, their lives snuffed out to serve him beyond the grave. Historians still argue whether this was a willing act of loyalty or a brutal enforcement. Some suggest the concubines volunteered, others claim they were dragged screaming into the flames. You pause, feeling the weight of that uncertainty, as the scent of jasmine from a nearby offering fades into the smoky air. This is where your journey begins, a descent into the Qin tomb's darkest secret, and you can't help but wonder what lies beneath the surface of this imperial dream. The silence wraps around you like a velvet cloak, and you notice the flicker of torchlight dancing on the walls, casting shadows that seem to move on their own. It's easy to imagine the emperor's courtiers, draped in silk robes worth more than a village, debating his final wishes with nervous glances. These royals turned excess into an art form. You chuckle to yourself, picturing them haggling over gold trinkets while ignoring the human cost. Another laugh escapes as you think of the Mercury River. Did they really think that toxic sludge would keep him young forever? The third joke comes when you picture a worker slipping on a jade tile, muttering, "At least I won't have to polish this in the afterlife." But the humor fades as you sense a deeper mystery. The concubine's fate hangs in the air, a puzzle wrapped in smoke and silence. You take a step closer to the heart of the tomb, the ground trembling slightly as if guarding its secrets. What drove this emperor to such extremes? Was it fear, power, or something more sinister? The night deepens around you, and the story is just beginning to unfold. The air grows heavier as you descend deeper into the Qin tombs, the faint scent of charred earth mingling with the lingering jasmine from above. You sense the silent cries of concubines lost to fire, their voices carried on a breeze that shouldn't exist this far underground. The terracotta warriors loom closer now, their painted eyes seeming to follow your every move, and you can't shake the feeling that you've stumbled into a realm where the past refuses to rest. The mystery thickens, pulling you into a world where loyalty and sacrifice blur into something far darker, and you're left wondering what secrets these stone guardians might whisper if they could speak. You glide through a narrow passage, the walls closing in with intricate carvings of dragons and phoenixes, their scales glinting in the torchlight. The ground beneath you feels warm, as if the earth still holds the heat of a fire long extinguished, and the rustle of your imagined footsteps echoes back with an eerie harmony. This is the heart of the tomb's secret, where history tells us that Qin Shi Huang demanded not just soldiers, but living souls to accompany him into eternity. A mainstream historical nugget emerges. After his death in 210 BCE, records suggest thousands of workers and concubines were buried or burned alive to protect his mausoleum's secrets and serve him in the afterlife. The scale of this act is staggering, a testament to his iron rule even beyond the grave. Yet, as you pause to listen, a quirkier detail surfaces. Some ancient texts hint that the concubines were given a peculiar farewell feast, dishes laced with rare spices and a hint of opium, supposedly to ease their transition. These nobles knew how to throw a party, even for a funeral. You muse with a soft laugh, imagining a banquet where the guests never leave. Another chuckle escapes as you picture an overzealous cook accidentally overdosing the spices, turning the last meal into a hazy dream. The third joke comes when you think of a concubine muttering, "At least the food's better than the palace rations." A light moment amid the gloom, but the humor fades as you sense the weight of their fate. You imagine the concubines, adorned in silk gowns that rustle like autumn leaves, led to a chamber where flames awaited. The act wasn't just sacrifice, it was a ritual, a twisted promise of eternal service. Historians still argue whether this was a voluntary act of devotion, as some claim the women swore oaths to follow their emperor, or a forced execution masked as honor. The debate lingers like smoke, and you feel a chill as you picture their final moments, the fire's glow reflecting off jade ornaments they wore to their doom. The passage widens, and you notice a faint outline of a sealed door, its edges scorched as if kissed by flames centuries ago. The scent of burnt wood grows stronger, blending with the earthy dampness of the tomb, and you recall that jade ring tied to a lost heir from the surface, a clue that this place holds more than just bones. Was this chamber where the concubines met their end? The silence presses against you, broken only by the drip of water somewhere deep below, and you can't help but wonder if their spirits still linger, guarding a secret no archaeologist has yet uncovered. The night deepens, and the tale of their sacrifice weaves tighter around you. The warmth beneath your feet intensifies as you explore the lavish burial that hid a grim fate, the scorched edges of the sealed door fading into a chamber where opulence meets dark rituals. You hear the rustle of imaginary silk banners fluttering in a non-existent wind, their golden threads catching the torchlight like captured stars, and the air carries a faint metallic tang. Perhaps the Mercury River Qin Shi Huang dreamed would flow forever. You're drawn deeper into this underground palace, where the gleam of jade and bronze contrasts with the shadowy truth of lives extinguished, and the mystery of the concubine sacrifice pulls you like a tide into uncharted waters. You glide across a floor inlaid with polished black stone, each step revealing more of the tomb's grandeur. The walls rise with murals depicting the emperor's conquests, a mainstream historical fact that highlights his unification of China in 221 BCE, a feat sealed with an iron fist. Yet, beneath this triumph lies a darker layer. The tomb was designed not just as a resting place, but as a microcosm of his empire, complete with rivers of mercury and a ceiling studded with pearls to mimic the night sky. The opulence is breathtaking, and you can't help but marvel at the craftsmanship, until you notice the scorch marks marring the edges of a ceremonial altar. A quirky detail emerges as you linger. Some scholars believe the emperor's artisans included a miniature orchestra of bronze bells, meant to serenade him in the afterlife, though rust has long silenced their tune. These royals turned their tombs into a party hall. Talk about overkill. You chuckle softly, picturing a ghostly band playing off-key. Another laugh slips out as you imagine a worker grumbling. I signed up to carve, not to tune bells. The third joke comes when you think of the Mercury River overflowing, with an artisan joking, well, at least it's a shiny flood, a light break in the heavy air. But the humor fades as you sense the ritual shadow. You imagine the concubines, their silk robes whispering against the stone, gathered around that altar for a ceremony no one dared question. The fire was no accident. It was a deliberate act, orchestrated to ensure their spirits served the emperor eternally. Historians ponder if this was a cultural norm of the time, a grim duty accepted by the court, or a tyrannical whim enforced by fear. The debate swirls like the smoke you envision rising from the flames, and you feel a pang of sorrow for those women, their beauty reduced to ashes for a king's vanity. The chamber opens into a vast hall, where the ceiling's pearl-studded sky glimmers faintly, and you recall that jade ring tied to a lost heir, a thread connecting the living to this buried world. The scent of burnt offerings lingers, mingling with the metallic bite of mercury, and you notice a pile of charred silk fragments, hinting at the concubines' final moments. Was this hall their pyre? The silence presses in, broken only by the distant drip of water, and you wonder if the tomb's design was less about immortality and more about silencing those who knew too much. The night deepens, and the ritual's dark echo reverberates through your thoughts. The vast hall stretches before you, its pearl-studded ceiling casting a ghostly glow as you hear tales of loyalty sealed in flames and ashes, the charred silk fragments crunching softly under your imagined steps. You feel the weight of the Qin tomb's silence, the air thick with the scent of burnt offerings and the faint metallic hum of mercury, as if the past itself is breathing around you. The ritual that claimed the concubines lingers like a shadow, pulling you into a story where devotion and doom intertwine, and you can't help but wonder what oaths were whispered in those final, fiery moments. You glide toward a corner where the walls bear faint inscriptions, their characters worn but hinting at a ceremony lost to time. History tells us that Qin Shi Huang's death in 210 BC triggered a frenzy of preparations, a mainstream fact where his court ensured his afterlife mirrored his rule, complete with sacrificed souls. The concubines, chosen for their beauty and grace, were said to have been part of a ritual to bind their spirits to the emperor, a practice rooted in the belief that the afterlife required servants as much as the living world did. You imagine their silk robes, once vibrant with color, now reduced to ash, their elegance a fleeting memory against the tomb's cold stone. A quirky tidbit surfaces as you pause. Some archaeologists speculate the concubines were given small jade tokens to carry into the flames, believed to guide their souls to the emperor's side. These nobles accessorized even their doom. Talk about fashion with a fatal twist. You chuckle, picturing a concubine adjusting her token with a wry smile. Another laugh escapes as you imagine a courtier saying, "Make sure it matches the robe." The third joke comes when you think of a worker muttering, "I hope they tip better in the afterlife." A light moment to ease the tension. Yet, the humor fades as you sense the gravity of their loyalty. You picture the chamber filling with the concubines, their voices soft as they recited oaths of eternal service, the air growing thick with incense before the flames took hold. Historians ponder if this was a voluntary act, a cultural duty embraced by the women, or a coerced sacrifice masked as honor. Some suggest the court fabricated stories of willingness to justify the act. The riddle hangs in the air, and you feel a quiet ache as you imagine the fire's glow reflecting off their jade tokens, a last glimmer before silence. The hall narrows into a passage, where the scorch marks on the walls tell a story of heat and haste, and you recall that jade ring tied to a lost heir, a link to the living world above. The scent of burnt wood blends with the damp earth, and you notice a small alcove filled with ash, perhaps where the ritual concluded. Was this where the concubines made their final stand, their loyalty forged in fire? The drip of water echoes, a lonely sound in the vastness, and you wonder if their spirits remain, bound by those ancient oaths. The night deepens, and the tale of their sacrifice weaves a haunting melody through your mind. The narrow passage opens into a cavernous space, where you ponder if ancient spirits guard a buried enigma, the ash-filled alcove behind you fading into the tomb's endless shadows. The air grows colder, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and the lingering trace of burnt offerings, as if the Qin tomb itself breathes a warning. You feel the weight of centuries pressing down, the pearl-studded ceiling above glinting like forgotten stars, and the mystery of the concubine's fate draws you into a final unraveling, where every step reveals a piece of a puzzle too dark to ignore. You glide toward the center of this cavern, where the floor dips into a shallow basin, its edges stained with what might be ancient mercury spills, a reminder of Qin Shi Huang's grand design. History records that his mausoleum, completed after his death in 210 BCE, was a marvel of engineering, a mainstream fact where rivers of liquid mercury were poured to mimic China's waterways, a toxic tribute to his immortality quest. The opulence is staggering, walls lined with bronze panels, ceilings adorned with pearls, but beneath it lies a grim truth. The concubine's sacrifice was the final seal on this imperial dream. You imagine the emperor's voice, cold and commanding, echoing through the halls as the ritual was set in motion. A quirky detail emerges as you linger. Some legends claim the tomb included a mechanical crossbow system, triggered to protect the emperor's rest from intruders, though no one's tested it since. These royals booby-trapped their eternity. Talk about overprotective. You chuckle, picturing an archaeologist dodging arrows. Another laugh slips out as you imagine a worker saying, "I hope the ghost reloaded." The third joke comes when you think of Qin Shi Huang muttering, "No tomb raiders, please." A light break amid the tomb's solemnity. The fourth quip arises as you picture a concubine rolling her eyes. At least the traps match the decor. And the fifth comes with a grin. Maybe they aimed at the Mercury River by mistake. But the humor fades as you sense the enigma's depth. You picture the cavern filling with the concubines, their jade tokens glinting in the firelight, as flames consumed them in a ritual meant to bind their souls. Historians ponder if this was a curse in disguise, a spiritual price paid for the emperor's hubris. Some suggest the tomb's unrest stems from their unwilling sacrifice, while others argue it was a cultural norm misunderstood by modern eyes. The scholarly riddle swirls like smoke, and you feel a quiet reverence as you imagine their spirits lingering, guarding a secret no living soul has claimed. The basin reflects your shadowy figure, and you recall that jade ring tied to a lost heir, a thread connecting this buried world to the surface. The scent of mercury bites the air, mingling with the dampness, and you notice a faint carving on the basin's edge, depicting a woman with outstretched hands. Perhaps a concubine's last plea? Was this the pyre's heart, where their loyalty was tested by fire? The drip of water slows to a whisper, and you wonder if the tomb's curse is real, its spirits watching as you unravel their story. The night deepens, and the enigma wraps around you like a silken shroud. The cavern's shadows soften around you, the drip of water slowing to a gentle rhythm, like a lullaby carried on the breeze from a world far above. You feel the weight of the Qin tomb's secrets lift, the scorched earth and pearl-studded ceiling fading into a distant memory as the air grows warm and still. The spirits of the concubines, their jade tokens and silken robes now just echoes, drift away like mist over a quiet river, leaving no trace of their fiery fate. You step back from the basin, the metallic tang of mercury replaced by the faint scent of night-blooming flowers, and the vastness of the tomb dissolves into a peaceful void. The rustle of imaginary banners ceases, and the torchlight dims, guiding you toward a restful calm where the emperor's ambition and the concubine's sacrifice no longer hold sway. Recall that jade ring tied to a lost heir. It too fades, a relic of a story now complete, as the night wraps you in its gentle embrace. The scholarly debates, the quirky feasts, the hidden crossbows, all melt into silence, leaving only the soft hum of your own breath to carry you forward. You're safe now, far from the shadowy halls, drifting on a sea of tranquility where no curses linger. Close your eyes if you haven't already, and let the stillness settle like a warm blanket, the last whispers of the tomb fading into a soothing whisper. The court's intrigues are gone, the flames extinguished, and all that remains is peace, deep and endless, as you slip into a dream where only calm resides. Sweet dreams, dear listener. May the night cradle you gently until dawn.